Yes, a very good evening to you all. Thank you so much for this wonderful privilege. It's indeed a great honor to be given this great platform just to share some insights around communication and the love languages in marriages. So I want to begin by saying that marriages are very important if we are to build a very strong nation. I've always said that it is from healthy marriages where we nurture families and children that grow into adults who are productive citizens of the global world. If the marriage is unhealthy, half the time you're going to find that the children that come out of that marriage, they are actually partially dysfunctional in the sense that they have either bitterness or certain things have happened to them and they don't, fully utilize their potential. So I really want to appreciate and encourage you to attach the uh, great importance that goes with marriages. In some countries that I know, particularly I'll list Hungary, I'll also talk about Canada, even the United States of America, and we're still now, under the new president. They are very concerned about how how marriages, are being managed by the individuals because they know that the quality of the nation in the future is going to be determined by the quality of the marriages that are there now. So that to me brings a very central role that marriages play in nation building. I always have wanted an opportunity really to share this thinking with the leaders. It could be our own national leaders. I've said that leaders must appreciate that marriages are a national function. Marriages are of a national concern, and burying their heads in the sand and pretending all is well is not really good. To me, it's not being responsible because our generation has a very great responsibility to ensure that the future generation is secured. How do we secure the future generation? I've always said it would be so beautiful and nice that when we are long gone, but even in our graves, as we know that we did well, we secured the future of a particular nation by ensuring that the current marriages are in good health. So that's where I want to start. So I really want to mobilize all of you to really believe that marriages are not just isolated institutions. They are of a national concern. The quality of teachers, soldiers, doctors is dependent on how we are nurturing our children in the current marriages. Yes. So as I move on, I'm going to be sharing on two aspects: yes, communication in marriage, and as well as the love languages. And both topics really are very profound to me. Communication is indeed the lifeblood of any interaction. If you're going to interact and the interaction is healthy, um, even outside marriage, communication must be effective, must be very effective, such that it allows understanding from both ends. And yes, I will share on that. And then, of course, I'll talk about the love languages, like most of us know. So I will start off talking about communication. And I want to say that before really we talk about communication, there is need that the parties to the marriage appreciate their role in marriage. So I have a definition that I want to use as a working definition. It says that marriage is when two people commit to spend the rest of their lives together, and in the process commit to empower and grow and develop each other. So I want you to realize that so marriage is a union of two people who commit. But I also want to say these two people are imperfect people. So it's a union of two imperfect people coming together with great commitment to spend the rest of their lives together, and grow, develop, and support one another. So it's a loaded definition in the sense that it says union. Union is one thing. So there are two that fuse to form one. So there are two and they come together to form one. That's what union means. And then the second part, it says commitment. So this is the key word in marriage, is about committing, and I want to define commitment here. So when you commit, you are saying, I am ready to do whatsoever it takes to ensure that this relationship works. So you are ready to go out of your way, and you commit because we are talking about imperfect beings coming together. So that leaves room for a few mistakes here and there, but still committing to that particular union that you have decided to enter. So marriage is an institution, and like all other institutions, there are principles that govern how that institution is run. And one of the key principles has to do with being able to commit to the institution that you belong to. So it could be even at work. There is need that you commit. There is need that. So commitment also means total application of your four energies towards this union. So application of your psychological energy, meaning that you bring what your mental faculties can do into the union, and of course improve on it. It also means you also bring your emotional energy. And of course, this relationship is heavily emotionally invested. There is no any other relationship with such emotional investment. And thirdly, you also need to focus your physical energy into this relationship. And of course, our spiritual energy as well. So, four levels of energy that you direct towards the unit. So, that also is very important. So, like we have agreed, this is an institution. Besides these levels of commitment, which can only be attained when you have a high sense of belonging. Belonging where? Belonging to the relationship. So half the time, there is highly compromised sense of belonging. You hear someone saying, no, I'll go out, I am giving up, and so on, because you don't belong. You are not registering a total belonging to that institution. It's like your surname, it's like your name. No matter how bad things are, you cannot change your name and say, I'm leaving my name because of this. So our levels of commitment, they speak to what we call the sense of belonging into the institution. We must belong. We belong. And when we belong, it is ours. When it is ours, then we are ready to commit. We are ready to sacrifice. So there's what we call sacrificial relationships, and this is one of them. A sacrificial relationships where you forego certain luxuries in order for you to maintain a healthy marriage. So very important to understand. But let me go back and say, so when I talk about a sense of belonging, a sense of belonging, a sense of being a team, a sense of being a tag team, I want you to appreciate that there is a language that is spoken in functional teams. So that's where I want to start. So there is a language that is spoken, and this language is characterized by the words we, our, us. We, our, us. So this is where I'm starting. So if you belong to a team, we, our, us, that becomes your language. And I want to say to you, very important, we want to ensure that our language is right. We need to speak the right language. So this I, me, you, them, and so on, it's not the language of a functional team. And like I've said, this union actually becomes a team. And we need to be team players. The way I look at teams is that team players, they consider the team's goals first before their own. So when you are a complete team player, you have a correct understanding that the team's needs, the team's goals, they come first before your personal goals. So this also shapes the language or the communication that you are going to do. So I'm saying, therefore, the use of the words we, our, us becomes a characteristic of team players, people who understand that we are indeed a team. And then the next thing that I want to share on has to do with I just want to pause a while and agree on a working definition so that we move on the same page. So, communication, we define it as how we interpret the symbols of life. So, we are going to say communication is the symbolic interpretation of information. So, we believe that everything that we see around us, they are symbols, and we want to agree that we interpret these symbols differently. So the marriage itself, as a union, as an institution, is a symbol. And how do we look at it? And you are going to find that if I was going to ask in this group and say, what is your definition of marriage? I see there are over 900 people. I was going to get almost half or about 500 different views altogether. So what are we saying? We are saying people interpret these symbols of life differently. And that difference in interpretation is where we then begin to have challenges. So we need to understand that communication is nothing else but interpreting either words, interpreting symbols, interpreting body language, interpreting gestures, interpreting what has happened. So our interpretations are prone to numerous or various, impressions. We interpret differently. And of course, this is because of our socialization. We were not brought up in the same space. and our understanding, our experiences as well, in our, in our upbringing, it tends also to shape the quality of how we interpret the symbols of life. So we are interpreting these symbols differently. So this is where I also want to draw your attention that indeed, as you come together, um, certain things are going to be interpreted differently, are going to be interpreted differently. And I want you to appreciate that, yes, we are likely going to interpret the same symbol differently. So you must have this realization. This consciousness must exist before we begin then to interact. Certain behaviors, certain aspects of life will definitely be interpreted differently by the two people that are in marriage. So we need that consciousness. And then as I move on, I want to say there are different types of communication that you are going to find. Um, very different type of communication. For marriages, I want to recommend what we call empowering communication. So empowering communication is a communication that is meant to empower the other person. There is need that we are conscious that the type of communication that we are applying is a communication that we have agreed on, a communication that we are saying, yes, this is the communication that we are going to use. And I am talking about empowering communication. So empowering communication is really meant, as you interact, is meant to empower the other person. And in the process, when we are using empowering communication, there are certain words that are never to be said. And of course, there are certain actions also that should never be done. So one aspect that is a big no as far as empowering communication is concerned is called interjection. You see, communication involves the exchanges of views, ideas, from one part to the other. So when we say exchange, it means communication is transactional. When communication is transactional, it means that there should be a free flow of communication from one end to another. There should be a free flow. So interjection is never a good thing in communication, because then it denies the opportunity to the other part to freely express themselves. So we are saying there should be a free flow of communication. So that allows the two parties to have that in mind and allow the other person to be able to express themselves, and also during that time listen. So that's one aspect. The other aspect that I want to share about communication is that when we have said certain words, our communication is said that you cannot retract communication. It's a principle that you must understand. There are principles of communication that you must understand if you are going to communicate effectively. And one of the principles has to do with transaction. Communication is transactional. The second principle is that you cannot retract, you cannot take back the words that you have spoken. It could be the words, or it could be gestures, or it could be body language that has expressed something. You cannot take back that from someone. It has registered, it will register. I want you to understand that the brain of the human being is a very big saver, and it has a tendency to store as much as it can be, as can be stored. So it cannot you cannot take back. You can only say sorry, but the words have gone. So what does that mean? Principle number two, what does it help us? Principle number two teaches us that we should be very considerate with our words. We should be so considerate with our words. Be considerate. You would rather not say anything than begin to apologize and say sorry. And saying sorry will not take back, the words that you have used. So, very important. Let's therefore be very cautious of the words that we use. And I was also going to share with you that communication is intertwined with emotional intelligence. The higher your emotional intelligence, the more likely you would communicate better. But at times, when our emotional intelligence is compromised, we are found wanting, we just say, utter, any type of words. And at times, we then cause a permanent internal mental damage to the other person. And that is very difficult to, have such wounds that are inside, wounds that are in the mind, wounds that are in the brain, healing and being things that we can actually sort of forget and move on. Very difficult. So principle number two, words, communication cannot be retracted. I also want to talk about the third principle. It says that communication is open to numerous interpretations. So don't just throw words. Don't just do actions and say, they will understand, it's okay. So there is going to be an interpretation by the other part. Interpretation that might not be what message you wanted to send out. Understand that. So I've always said that because of this principle number three, communication is complex because it is open to numerous interpretation. There is need for both couples to understand that they have what I call an R and A in communication. They have responsibility and accountability to do with regards to communication. So the responsibility is to ensure that the message that I want to drive home gets to the intended person in the very manner that I want them to understand. It is our responsibility. And there are ways in which you can check whether you are reading the same page. At times we might be speaking, but the interpretations that are there might also then distort the meaning of the message that we are sending. So still on principles, the other principle that you must always uphold is it says that communication is personal. Communication is personal. It will never be like generic or uniform or standard. Communication is always personal. And when I say this, it is really dependent on the individual experiences that we go through. So communication is personal because our personal life experiences as we're growing, they shape the nature of communication that we are going to do. And by this, I don't mean, you see, when we talk of communication, these are not utterances. We are not talking about utterances only. We are talking about the entire scope of communication. Communication also involves how someone reads their environment. It also involves the philosophical appreciation and understanding and interpretation of the world that individuals go through. So this is very key because you are going to find that because we're socialized differently, raised differently, the meaning of money, wealth is very different, from one person to another. Some of us are brought up in environments where we believe that as long as when there's so much money, it might mean that there is some juju, or there is some medicine, African magic, that kind of thing. And someone will grow up in an environment that teaches them that no, you know being financially modest is good, but the extremes, are bad. That kind of thing. So that already is communication, and also how then we relate to one another as a husband and wife. Also, is dependent on how we're nurtured. What are the traditional roles, of the husband, of the wife? When I say traditional, I'm saying our understanding of these particular roles, they are shaped by how we were socialized. So as a result, that will also shape how you are going to be communicating, and expecting the other person, to do certain chores and blah, and everything else. So that is very key. We need to understand that communication is indeed personal. The other principle says that communication is holistic. Communication is holistic. Communication are not words only. It is holistic in the sense that it involves even the emotional state of the person who you are communicating to, or who is communicating. So communication is not only the words; it's holistic. We want to look at, for example, three aspects. We the words that are expressed, and also get to understand the body language expression, of body language, posture, hand gestures, facial expressions. Understand them, but also understand the emotional expression, or the emotional tone that the person shares with. So those three aspects are very important. That is holistic communication. Communication is holistic. Let's not look at one aspect and forget the other. I also want to share with you that neuroscience is clear. It says that people choose to listen to the communication that they believe is more authentic. So when I communicate with you and you can see me, you look at my non-verbal communication, and you also check my communication of words, people are bound to choose which communication mode they want to interpret. And the truth is that generally people choose to understand and to interpret body language or non-verbal communication over verbal communication, because non-verbal communication is authentic. You cannot tamper with non-verbal communication. It is authentic. It is real. You cannot fake it. So people would rather, choose non-verbal communication, and interpret that as opposed to what people are saying verbatim. So I want you to understand that very, very well. Going forward, the other principle that you need also to appreciate is that this communication that we talk about is such that it can be learned. Communication is a learned skill. Those of us who believe we are not great communicators, opportunities like this will empower us to be great in our communication. So that's the beauty. The beauty being that communication can be learned. It's a learned skill. It's not a skill that you are born with. It's a learned skill. So all of us have a learning capability. We have a potential to learn. Learning requires us to be intentional about learning. Learning is an attitude. You decide to learn or you decide not to learn. So, very important. When you are open minded, you learn more. There are some people who actually shut off, from learning. learning is a choice. You choose to learn. And I also want to share with you, learning is not the formal learning that we are talking about. We are saying acquiring knowledge and applying that knowledge in our lives. And there is no learning without behavior change. This is what the psychologists say. The evidence of learning is when there's behavior change. So when you learn how to communicate effectively, then we see with your communication that you've acquired and you begin to apply. Right. So I want to move on. I'm looking at the fundamentals here of communication, and allow me to highlight a few aspects. And I use the word C. There can be 10 C's that I want to just share on quickly. And the C's that guide our communication. And I want to say the first C has to do with courtesy. The first C is courtesy, and to me is the most important. And I say that in all your communication, you must be courteous. Be courteous in your communication. And when we say courtesy, the word courtesy means polite and friendly. That's what it means. Simple. And I'm saying to you, in all your communication, you must always remain polite and friendly. And no matter what accusation people are casting against you, if you are going to be an effective communicator, remember, always remain polite and friendly. And it's easy to check whether this communication that a couple does, whether it's courteous or not. So I want you to remember your communication should be classified as a courteous communication. And this is a communication that is punctuated by words like may I, kindly, thank you, my apologies, I'm sorry. So these words, they punctuate a courteous communication. It shows that you are courteous. The second C is consideration. You must ensure that there is consideration as you communicate. As you communicate, you must tick the second box, which is consideration. And on consideration, it means ensuring that you are not offending the other part. Ensure that you are not offending the other part. That is consideration. You are considering the views, the feelings, the emotions, the situation, the upbringing, the current status, their relatives, and everything else around them. You speak with consideration. Speak, communicate with consideration. So that's number two. Number three, I want to bring in this word that is called congruency. Your communication must be congruent. And when I say communication must be congruent, I mean your verbal utterances, they must be aligned to your non-verbal communication. So there must be a congruence. There must be some agreement between what you are expressing verbally and what your body language or your tone or your emotion is expressing. There needs to be some form of alignment. And I want you to appreciate that half the time there is a lot of incongruency in our communication. We say this, and our body language or our emotion is saying literally the opposite of what we are saying. And that is not good communication at all because you are sending a very conflicting message. We actually say it's a conflicting message. It's a way, it's a communication that is contradictory because your body language is saying this and your verbal language is saying the other. I'll give you an example. You cannot say to me when I come to your house, your hands are folded, and you are saying, come in, you are welcome, with your hands folded. It does not work. There is incongruency in communication when you do that. But when you open your hands, You have what we call an open hand gesture, and you're saying, come in, and so on. That shows that there's congruence because your nonverbal communication, your nonverbal cues are actually saying the same thing that your words are saying. So that is important. Yes, going on, I want to say that so the other C is being creative in our communication. Communication should also be interesting. And why should it be creative? Why should it be interesting? Because you want to engage fully the other person. If you speak and or communicate in a manner that is boring, passive, benign, maybe also predictable. It's boring, and that's one of the things that happen, in marriages, because at times we get so familiar, to one another over years, and we take for granted that we have a responsibility to ensure that our communication should continuously be creative. And so when you are using a creative communication, you are applying some additional energy to ensure that this communication meets the standard of creativity. So yes, we need to spice it. We need to make it interesting. uh, you can actually add soft humor to it to make it creative, but still send the signal that is the right signal to you. So that is key. That is very important. We want to make sure that communication is creative, because we want to capture the attention. We want to capture the full attention of the other part. If you are going to communicate, say, with a very low voice, and also, boring choice of words that you are using, yes, it might discourage the other person to fully, interact with you. So that is important. The other C, we encourage you to ensure that whatever you say is correct. Find out, check whether what you are saying is correct. At times, we say things only to realize that what we said was not correct. I talk about the three levels of correctness. There were things that were correct in the past. There are things that are correct now, and there are things that will be correct in the future. So you be clear, be conscious that whatever you are communicating is actually correct. Check at times. I normally say check and make sure, yes, it is factual, that which you are communicating. And like I did say, instead of then having to labor in withdrawing, in making attempts to retract, which you can't, and now you're apologizing of being misquoted or saying the wrong things and so on. It is not good at all. Be definite, be clear in terms of what you want to say, and is it factual? Is it factual? Very, very important there. Yes, I like that. I like that. So make sure that it is factual. Yes, and then the next thing is we want to appreciate the other C that talks about being consistent. It is not effective communication when you blow hot and cold, when you shift, from your original views. Now you are expressing something that is different from what you normally do. Yeah, it is not good. So consistency is very important. Sticking to the same views in terms of your communication, standing for the same things that we've always stood for, instead of shifting goalposts all the time. So we have seen people who are like that, people who shift their goalposts, and we are saying that is not good at all. You cannot be shifting goalposts. Be consistent and ensure you remain, with the same sort of point of standing in terms of your views. That will help you, be understood. Be understood. Very important, because one of the key things that we do in communication is to ensure that we've been understood. So that will help. Consistency will help. And then the other C is credibility. Where is the what is the source of the information that you are sharing? Is it a credible source? Because this is another challenge as well, particularly in marriage. We hear certain things, and we then talk about them. We make them the mainstay of the subject, and we are not very certain of the source, or we don't trust the source that has shared that particular information. So credibility is very important. And I also talk about two levels of credibility here. There's what we call content credibility, and there's what is called personal credibility. So where is the content coming from? And is the person that shared that piece of information credible? So that is key. And then there is another C, coherence. Your communication should be coherent. And when I say coherent, there should be a concordial agreement, from what you say now to the next. There should be some coherence. There should be some agreement, some concordial agreement, in your presentation, so people can understand, rather than, contradicting. When you contradict, you're going to find that the other, your spouse might not really understand what you are saying, because there is a contradiction. But there should be a smooth flow of that. Right. And then the other C that I talk about is to do with collaborative. Communication is about two people in marriage, and we collaborate to speak one thing. We work together to speak one thing. That's very important. So communication is indeed collaborative. So these are the C's that I want you to use in your communication. I want you to be able to tick the box. Is it courteous what you are saying? And some of it you need to ask yourself before you say, before you communicate, before you express. And if you do that, then you will always guard against now making an attempt to retract communication that you cannot. So very important. Right. So the next thing that I want to share with you has to do with I have three quotes that I personally developed, and I want to share with you. So the first quote says, interjection is a sign of poor communication. I have said this before. Let's not interject. Interjection in marriage is not good. So when you interject when your spouse is speaking, what it does say is you are belittling them, and you are actually saying whatever they are about to say is not of importance, and you are literally saying, keep quiet, let me speak, because you have nothing to offer. So interjection, it's in most cases it fuels uh, a rise in emotions during communication, and it is important to really wait, because you will still have your time, because we have agreed that communication is transactional. So wait until your time, you've been given your time, and express yourself. Interjection is really not good. It also serves to denigrate the other person, and also, say negative things about their dignity, like they are not, entitled to express whatever they are saying. So that is not good at all, and it creates this hostile, uh, view that the other person will pick, and might not express it. They might just keep it inside, but they have it because someone has interjected. So please do not interject. The second quote says that great communicators, they are great listeners. So if you are going to be a good communicator in this institution, you need to be a great listener. And of course, the fact that there are two ears and one mouth, it's also quite evident that there was an attempt by our maker to ensure that we listen twice as much as we speak. But of course, in our communication principles now, we say that listen 80% and talk only 20%. I'm not sure whether some of us are able to do this, and it is very important to do that. So yeah, let's be great listeners. So it says great communicators are great listeners, comma, who are able to listen to those things that are not said. Remember earlier on, I said communication is holistic, and exactly my point here. A great communicator does not only utter words or interpret words, they also are able to read the non-verbal cues. They are also able to read the emotional tone that is expressing that particular communication. So we need to get to that level, particularly in marriages, because marriages are heavily invested in terms of emotions. And then I talk about the last quote. It says, great communicators always strive to understand before they are understood. So the idea is you need to work hard to understand. Don't be quick to respond. I was also going to talk about listening and say some of us listen to respond. We don't listen to understand. There's a purpose why we should listen. Our idea, our the ideal thing is to listen to understand. So take time, make sure that you understand, and you are ready to listen and understand. There are some of the aspects that you need to understand. They don't come out as straight as you expect. But we great communicators, they strive to understand before they are understood. So that is the third quote. Yes. So yes, the your communication should be empowering, and most of the C's there, they actually aid that your communication is empowering. Is your communication empowering? That's the question that I want to um, uh, to to always use. Um, I am a Rotarian, and we do have what is called the four-way test in Rotary, if you are a Rotarian. And they say that whatever we do, we should ask ourselves the four questions. And the questions are: is it true? Is it the truth? Is it the truth? That's our number one question. Number two question, it says, is it fact? Is it factual? Number three should say, is it going to be in the best interest of the people? And number four, of course, are you not going to hate, some people? So it's the same thing. Before we communicate, let's ensure that our communication is ready to empower and support the growth and the development in the other person. Yeah, so I want to say that if you abide by these principles that are very simple, your communication is going to be effective, and that is important. But before I move on to the other part, let me touch on the six uh, predictors of an unhealthy marriage as far as communication is concerned. These are six communication styles that we see in most marriages. So I will start off by something that is called gaslighting. So there is something that is called gas lighting. And you find that maybe in the morning, before people left for work, I'm talking about a couple here, there was a talk, about something, some misunderstanding on a particular thing, and then you go away, you part ways, and for the 8 hours at work, you did not communicate about it. When you meet, the person who raises, they go back to morning and say, yeah, in the morning you were saying this, and I don't like it, and so on. That is called gaslighting, and gaslighting is not good for a relationship, because it continues to stir up negative emotions and allows the environment, the communication environment, to be cluttered, with negative emotions. So that's number one. And then the second thing is negative communication ratio. Negative communication ratio. So you realize that there are some couples who, in their discussion, say they are discussing maybe for 30 minutes, you are going to find that they don't agree. There is nothing that they agree to. They are always contradicting. And in some cases, the contradictions are so petty. They argue that no, it was not 6 o'clock, it was 6:05, and the other person is really arguing vehemently, and they are saying no, it was not 6 o'clock, and so on. So there is something that we call a negative communication ratio, and this is a scenario where the couples do not agree at all. So the ratio is 5 to 1. So they disagree on five aspects of their communication and only agree on one. Is called negative communication ratio. So rather, what is encouraged, what is recommended is a positive communication ratio, where a couple, agree 5 times and disagree once. So that's the second thing. The third thing, the third very bad way of communicating in a marriage is called stonewalling. Stonewalling is like building a physical wall between you and your spouse, or you and your fiance. And what's happening here is, when I say stonewalling, you are building a stone wall. There are no feelings, and it's like you are just looking at the other person. They might be talking, and you are not really connected to that interaction. Um, some people call it silent treatment. They are looking at you and they do nothing. They don't say anything. They don't even, you don't show feelings that they are connecting to the communication. Yeah, so it's called stonewalling. And then we have what is called defensiveness. Defensiveness is when the other part continuously has reasons for doing the wrong things that they have done. So they are always giving excuses, and they are very quick to point fingers at everything else other than themselves. It's called defensiveness. And then we move on to the more serious ones. And this one is called criticism. So some marriages are characterized by criticism, criticizing the other person all the time, and it's called criticism. This criticism you do when it's the two of you. Then it becomes worse when it goes to the last point. Then the last point is contempt. Contempt is when you are criticizing in the presence of other people. And the one you hear one saying, yeah, this person is not responsible, and they are saying that in front of other people. And that is called contempt. And when there is contempt, yeah, it's really a bad. Apparently, when a marriage has got these six negative communication styles, yes, we talk of these being key predictors of a completely breaking down a marriage. So communication is important. Let's communicate well. Let's avoid the six bad communication styles that I've mentioned. Yeah, and definitely we will enjoy the marriage. Remember also something that I normally say. I say marriage was designed, of course, by the Creator to be enjoyed and not endured. When you endure marriage, there's something that is wrong, something fundamentally wrong that needs to be worked on. And of course, you need to do the correct troubleshooting in order for you to resolve it. Then I want to move on to the next and the last part of the presentation. Yes, now I've moved on to the last part of the presentation, and I am hoping that you are listening to this presentation as a couple, and it helps quite a lot, particularly if you're open minded, willing to learn, willing to take the relationship to another level. Um, we know the five love languages that were postulated by Gary Chapman. Gary Chapman wrote a book where he talked about the five love languages. I have personally shifted a bit from what he says about the five love languages. So he focuses on encouraging partners or spouses to identify and work on the love language of the other part. But my view is that you must practice all the five love languages. It's very important. You must be practicing because the love languages are not also static. They are not. They are dynamic, and you can't keep on trying to find out which one is theirs. No one has a permanent love language. Things change in life, and the love language changes as well. So I normally say, I want you to practice all these. And I want you to listen very closely as I share on this one. So the first love language is the love language of positive affirmations. And on this one, I encourage people to learn to speak positively about the other part. I actually encourage people to speak or to communicate three times a day, while they are expressing positive affirmations to the other. So it's like, we must find it easy to say thank you for the children, thank you for everything, thank you for making me the person that I am. We must find that easy. And positive affirmations, yes, they are punctuated by expressions of gratitude. So where you are also speaking positively, just a compliment to your spouse. You are looking good. This is great. You have done so well. So those words are the ones that we call positive affirmations. And yeah, my question is, how often do we say them? And I've always said, let's say them as much as we can, the positive affirmations. So that is the first one. The second one is called the love language of touch. So I split this into three: the love language of touch. So the first thing really is to be comfortable when you are close to your partner. And some of us are not at all. We must be very comfortable because the first one, I refer to it as proximity. Even if you are walking in town, at work, at church, your proximity also speaks quite a lot about how close you are together. Uh, in that regard, the second level has to do with holding hands. Holding hands is very powerful and very important. We must find it easy to hold hands, particularly in public. I call it the public display of affection, which is important. Holding hands all the time it develops a new level of communication altogether, and it is called telepathic communication, where you communicate with touch without even opening your mouth. I've always said that when you do these things regularly, you will appreciate either the temperature, the texture, of your spouse. Even the grip will communicate something to you. So you need to be able to practice this. And then the last part is being able to cuddle. It could be the shoulders of your spouse in public, even in the presence of your children. Times we want to be holier than thou. It's also important to teach children, what a couple does, and by just being able to cuddle the shoulders, yes, and also like massage the feet and so on, in public. Very important. The language of touch. The language of touch. Language number three is called the love language of exchanging of gifts. And so this it should be something that we do all the time. Yes, it's February, and most of us, this is the only time when we are compelled to buy a present, and we are saying that is not correct at all. The essence of a present or a gift is not its value. In the essence of the gift is not its intrinsic value, but rather it is the fact that you were thinking about this particular person. If you bring a banana home, what it does, it sends a signal that you were thinking about this particular person. And that is very important, very key. Uh, it's not how expensive the value the gift is. It is just the thought behind the gift that is very important. What is also important is for you to appreciate that there are two things that really bring out the essence of a gift. So the first one is how you are handing over that particular gift. And when I say how, I'm saying I've always said that when you have decided to buy someone a gift, you are submitting. It is a sign of submission. And so why not go all the way and demonstrate total submission? Yes, go down your knees and yes, hand over the gift. Go down your knees and hand. So this will give the essence of the gift. So go down your knees, hand over the gift, and as you hand over the gift, don't just give them, don't just throw it. Allow them to hold it the other end while you are holding, and then be able also to express powerful words. So the words that accompany the gift, they are also critical, very critical. The words and how you hand over the gift, they form the essence of that particular gift. And yes, while they are still holding the other side, you should be able to say these powerful words. Yeah, thank you so much. This gift is coming from deep down my heart. It means a lot. Whatever you say, because that will bring out the essence of the gift. And then number three is quality time. And the quality time, I call it no electronic gadget time. We are very much addicted now to our gadgets, and we are closer to our gadgets than we are closer to our spouses. Very, very awkward indeed. Very close to your gadget, you keep it well, you protect it, you make sure that it is well charged, it has got airtime, and yeah, you really take proper care of your gadgets. as opposed to your spouse. So it's a challenge indeed. And then the last one is acts of service to the other. Acts of service to the other. Yeah. Um, so those are the 5 love languages. Acts of service to the other, deciding to do chores that are ordinarily done by your spouse. So if you are a man, you can say Sundays is me who prepares meal. And go for it voluntarily, out of your own volition, without anyone asking you. That's what we say, acts of service to the other. Yes. So, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to wind up the presentation and end here. But as I end, I want to talk about the 4 types of listening, and say that there is what we call cosmetic listening, where someone really is not in it. Cosmetic listening. And then there is what we call um, um, there's what we call selective listening, where you are selecting to listen what you want to hear, and not listening to other parts. And then there is active listening, where you are fully involved, no distractions, no electronic gadgets, but you are listening attentively. And then there is what is called deep listening. Deep listening is where you also allow yourself to paraphrase and summarize what has been said by the other person, so that you remain on the same page in terms of understanding the whole conversation. So I want to say, yes, communication, very important. And of course, the prerequisite to great communication is when you are ready to make yourself better. So in a marriage institution, it is important for both parties to continuously work on improving themselves, to develop a propensity to be better, for personal development. Because personal development helps in the sense that when you have grown, there's personal growth. You are going to find that the way you express and articulate issues is also going to have shifted. And this applies to both parties. So, yes, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to thank you so much. I'm hoping that I could have gone on and on. I'm hoping that in this short discussion is able to bring value, to you. I have said that today there is a pandemic. It is called K to A pandemic. And the K to A pandemic, I'm referring to knowledge to action pandemic. So most of us have acquired knowledge, but there is no action that is consummate to that particular body of knowledge. So I want to encourage you, yes, let's apply. What's more important is not knowing theoretically, is application in marriage, so that our marriages are healthier, and we continue to then nurture children who will become full global citizens, who are able to interact with others at the same level. So I really want to appreciate and thank you so much, and invite you every Monday. I am on Capitalk, and I talk about marriages. So Monday it should be about 9 to 10 o'clock. Yes, so every Monday there is a topic that I'll be sharing on, and it's a great opportunity as well for you to connect and, of course, improve your marriage. Otherwise, thank you so much. Have a great night.